In 1930, one factory in Illinois produced a golden sponge cake that would become more American than apple pie itself. 300 million packages. That's how many Twinkies Continental Baking Company sold at its peak, year after year, flooding every grocery store, gas station, and school lunchbox across the nation. Walk into any interstate bakery's facility in the 1990s and you'd witness an empire. 54 bakeries stretching from coast to coast, 32,000 workers clocking in before dawn, 2,000 distribution centers delivering fresh products to every corner of America. Wonder Bread, Twinkies, Ding Dongs, Ho-Hos. Brands so iconic they defined childhood itself. This wasn't just a bakery, it was a cultural institution. For 7 decades, these factories hummed with a machinery symphony that fed America's sweet tooth. The company controlled bread and cake production on a scale that seemed unstoppable. $3 billion in annual revenue. The largest wholesale baker in the entire United States. Then something went catastrophically wrong. By 2012, those same factories stood silent. 18,500 workers received termination notices in a single week. Production lines that had run continuously for 80 years ground to a halt. The company that had survived the Great Depression, World War II, and countless market shifts filed for bankruptcy, not once, twice. Today, if you drive past the old Continental Baking Plant in Schiller Park, Illinois, where James Dewar invented the Twinkie, you'll find it closed, demolished, gone. From the birthplace of America's most famous snack cake erased from existence. So how does a company this dominant, this embedded in American culture simply disappear? How do you destroy a brand worth billions? The answer isn't simple. It's a story of legacy costs crushing innovation, union battles destroying trust, and Wall Street investors stripping away everything that made these factories work. This is the rise, dominance, and spectacular collapse of Hostess brands. Welcome inside the bakeries where America's sweetest dreams turned into its bitterest nightmare. April 6, 1930, River Forest, Illinois. James Alexander Dewar stands in Continental Baking Company's cramped bakery, staring at rows of idle machines. The Canadian-born baker, just 33 years old, manages this facility, and he's got a problem eating into profits. The shortcake pans. During strawberry season, they pump out cream-filled cakes by the thousands. Then strawberries disappear, and the equipment sits dormant for 8 months every year. Dead capital, wasted space, lost revenue. Dewar's mind races. What fills 12 months? Bananas. They're available year-round, cheap, plentiful. He instructs workers to pipe banana cream into the same golden sponge cakes they use for strawberry shortcakes. 3 injections per cake, each one perfectly measured. The result? A long golden finger cake with sweet cream oozing from its center. But here's the thing. The product needs a name. Something kitschy. Something that makes kids beg their mothers to buy it. Dewar drives through St. Louis on a business trip when he spots a billboard. Twinkle toe shoes. The lights around it flashing, sparkling, twinkling. He shortens it. Twinkie. I shortened it to make it a little zippier for the kids, he later explains. The first Twinkies hit stores for 5 cents per 2-pack. Response exceeds every expectation. Grocers can't keep them stocked. Continental Baking immediately scales production. Within months, Twinkies appear in stores across the Midwest. Within a year, they're national. Dewar's simple solution to idle machinery becomes Continental's signature product. Then World War II changes everything. Banana rationing forces the company to switch fillings. They try vanilla. Customers actually prefer it. The banana cream Twinkie essentially disappears, replaced by the vanilla version that becomes synonymous with American childhood. Continental Baking expands aggressively. And the company already owns Wonder Bread, launched in 1921. Now, with Twinkies leading the snack cake division, they dominate two crucial markets, daily bread and sweet treats. They sponsor children's television programs, Howdy Doody, Captain Kangaroo. An entire generation associates Hostess products with childhood comfort. Meanwhile, across the country in Kansas City, another bakery empire is building. Interstate Bakeries Corporation forms in 1930, the same year as the Twinkies' birth. Founded by Ralph Leroy Nafziger. He sells butternut bread wrapped in distinctive country gingham packaging. Interstate grows through acquisition, buying regional bakeries, building distribution networks, establishing itself as Continental's primary competitor. Two giants, one industry. For 60 years, cheap. They circle each other like heavyweight boxers, neither landing a knockout blow. That's about to change. January 1995, Kansas City, Missouri. Interstate Bakeries Corporation announces the deal that reshapes American baking forever. They're acquiring Continental Baking Company from Ralston Purina for $330 million plus 16.9 million shares of Interstate stock. Overnight, Interstate becomes the undisputed king of wholesale baking in America. The prize? Everything Continental built over 75 years. Wonder Bread, the Hostess brand, Twinkies, Ding Dongs, Ho-Hos, cupcakes, snowballs. Every iconic snack cake Americans grew up eating now belongs to Interstate. The combined company controls bread and cake production on a scale never seen before. It's more than $3 billion in annual sales, 60 bakeries, thousands of delivery routes, market dominance in both categories. Charles Sullivan, Interstate's chief executive, moves fast. In January 1996, barely a year after the acquisition, he launches the most aggressive marketing campaign in company history. National television advertisements flood the airwaves. Wonder Bread commercials appear for the first time in almost a decade. The slogan, "Remember the Wonder." It's nostalgia packaged as advertising, and it works brilliantly. But here's what nobody saw coming. Sullivan makes a crucial product decision that seems counterintuitive. Continental had shrunk Hostess snack cakes before the acquisition, trying to preserve profit margins. Sullivan reverses it. He restores Twinkies and Ho-Hos to their original sizes. So in some cases, he makes them even larger. And he doesn't raise prices. The message to America. Interstate cares about quality, not just profit. Sales explode. 1997 revenue hits $3 billion, up 11.6% from the previous year. The marketing blitz combined with bigger snack cakes creates a perfect storm of consumer enthusiasm. Interstate introduces new products, fat-free Wonder and butternut breads, Hostess Lights. They're responding to health trends while maintaining their core business. Yet beneath this success, problems are brewing. The two companies had wildly different corporate cultures. Butternut operated with radical decentralization. Each bakery functioned as its own profit center, making independent decisions. Wonder Bread ran with rigid structure, centralized command, uniform procedures. Emerging these philosophies proves far more difficult than anyone anticipated. Interstate tries to impose systems integration. Butternut bakeries resist. Wonder Bread facilities demand compliance. Production inefficiencies multiply. The company that looked unstoppable from the outside is fracturing from within. Employee tensions rise. Union representatives from different facilities can't agree on basic contract terms. The cultural clash that seemed like a minor concern in 1995 is becoming a critical problem. Still, Wall Street loves the numbers. Stock analysts praise Interstate's market position. The future looks golden. September 22, 2004. Kansas City, Missouri. Interstate Bakeries Corporation files for Chapter 11, bankruptcy protection in United States Bankruptcy Court. Yet the announcement shocks industry analysts. This company made Wonder Bread and Twinkies, for God's sake. American institutions. products so embedded in culture they seemed recession-proof. Yet here they are, $1.3 billion in debt, unable to meet basic financial obligations. Chairman and Chief Executive Officer James Smucker resigns effective immediately. The board installs Antonio Alvarez, a 56-year-old turnaround specialist from New York, as emergency CEO. His firm, Alvarez and Marsal, has rescued companies like Health South, Spiegel, and Warnaco. Now he faces his toughest challenge, saving Interstate from complete collapse. The bankruptcy filing lists $1.63 billion in assets against $1.32 billion in liabilities. JP Morgan Chase agrees to provide $200 million in debtor-in-possession financing, keeping operations running while the company reorganizes. Interstate assures employees they'll continue receiving paychecks. Vendors will get paid. The 54 bakeries will keep baking. But here's the brutal reality behind those numbers. Multiple crises converge simultaneously. Low-carb diet trends devastated bread sales. Atkins. South Beach. Suddenly, America's obsession with protein makes carbohydrates the enemy. Wonder Bread sales crater. Energy costs skyrocket. Ingredient prices surge. Pension obligations accumulate. Healthcare costs explode. The company employed 32,000 workers, many covered by multiple union contracts from various acquisitions, 372 separate bargaining agreements. Each with different pension plans, health care benefits, work rules. The administrative complexity alone is crushing. Legacy costs from decades of acquisitions are bleeding the company dry. Alvarez immediately announces plant closures. Monroe, Louisiana goes first. 50 jobs eliminated. More bakeries follow. Buffalo, New York. California facilities, Michigan plants. Each closure saves money but destroys communities. Workers who'd spent entire careers at these bakeries suddenly face unemployment in their 50s and 60s with skills the market no longer values. Meanwhile, something else is happening that Interstate didn't anticipate. Consumer preferences are shifting fundamentally. People want fresh baked goods from in-store bakeries. They want whole grain, organic, artisanal. Mass-produced packaged bread starts feeling dated, artificial, unhealthy. Twinkies become synonymous not with childhood nostalgia, but with junk food and empty calories. The bankruptcy drags on. 1 year becomes 2, 2 becomes 3. Interstate closes 9 of its 54 bakeries during this period. More than 300 outlet stores shutter. The workforce shrinks from 32,000 to 22,000. The company drops regional brands, abandons operating agreements, fights with unions over contract concessions. 4 years and 5 months. That's how long Interstate spends in bankruptcy protection. The longest-running bankruptcy case in U.S. history at that time. February 3, 2009. Irving, Texas. Interstate Bakeries emerges from bankruptcy as a private company, flush with new financing and renewed optimism. Ripplewood Holdings takes a 50% equity stake. General Electric Capital and other lenders provide credit lines. Most importantly, the company's unionized workers accepted painful contract concessions in exchange for equity. Everyone's invested in success now. Everyone has skin in the game. Craig Young leads the restructured company, and he immediately makes a symbolic decision. On November 2, 2009, Interstate Bakeries Corporation officially becomes Hostess Brands. The name change isn't cosmetic. It represents a strategic pivot. The company will emphasize its iconic cake division, brands like Twinkies and cupcakes, while maintaining bread lines including Wonder. The move makes business sense. Hostess snack cakes carry more brand equity than Interstate's bread products. They're higher margin, more defendable against competition. The cultural cachet of Twinkies alone is worth hundreds of millions in marketing value. Hostess represents childhood, nostalgia, Americana. That's currency money can't buy. Hostess Brands relocates headquarters from Kansas City to Irving, Texas. Fresh start. New energy. The company that nearly died is rising again. For 18 months, optimism pervades. Production stabilizes. Sales trends improve. Relationships with vendors and retailers strengthen. The turnaround is working. But here's what nobody wants to admit. The fundamental problems never got solved. The legacy costs that drove the company into bankruptcy are still there. Pension obligations didn't disappear. Healthcare costs didn't magically decrease. The union structure, with hundreds of separate contracts, remains intact. And the market forces crushing bread sales haven't reversed. In December 2011, reports surfaced that Hostess is on the verge of filing for bankruptcy again. The company stops paying future pension benefits after August, breaking union contracts. Workers are furious. We understand that, should we pursue some form of legal action to require the company to live up to the terms of the contract, they may simply file bankruptcy, one employee states. The trust is gone. Management claims poverty. Workers see executives receiving raises while their pensions disappear. The company is hemorrhaging cash, roughly $860 million in debt. 19,000 employees depending on paychecks. Old equipment requiring constant repairs. Distribution networks, bleeding money. Even the company that celebrated emergence from bankruptcy just 24 months earlier is circling the drain again. On January 10, 2012, Hostess Brands files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy for the second time in less than 10 years. The filing states the company is not competitive, primarily due to legacy pension and medical benefit obligations and restrictive work rules. It's the same story as before, just louder, more desperate, more final. If you're finding this story fascinating, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us continue bringing you these deep dives into history. March 2012. Irving, Texas. Hostess workers discover something that destroys whatever remaining trust existed between labor and management. Fortune magazine breaks the story. While the company claimed poverty and demanded wage cuts from workers, top executives secretly received massive raises. The previous year, while negotiating bankruptcy, while asking employees to sacrifice, Brian Driscoll, the CEO, had proposed a compensation package worth $1.5 million plus cash incentives and $1.95 million in long-term compensation. Other executives received raises of up to 80%. The timing couldn't be worse. Workers are being asked to accept 8% wage cuts, 27 to 32% benefit reductions, and suspended pension contributions. Meanwhile, the people demanding these sacrifices are getting rich. Driscoll resigns in disgrace. The board replaces him with Gregory Rayburn, and a restructuring specialist hired as chief restructuring officer just 9 days earlier. Rayburn immediately slashes executive pay. The top 4 executives will receive $1 salaries until the company stabilizes. It's damage control, but the damage is done. Union representatives express what workers are thinking. Frank Hurt, president of the Bakery, Confectionery, Tobacco Workers, and Grain Millers International Union, states bluntly, "Our members decided they were not going to take any more abuse from a company they have given so much to for so many years." The Teamsters Union, representing 6,700 Hostess workers, accepts a new contract after 8 months of brutal negotiations. The deal cuts pay and health care contributions. It suspends pension contributions. In exchange, would workers receive 25% equity and 2 seats on an 8-member board. The Teamsters leadership, while angry, recognized the financial reality. Reject the deal, and everyone loses their jobs. Accept it, and maybe, just maybe, the company survives. But here's the thing. The Bakers Union, representing about 15,000 workers, rejects the deal. They've watched management cycle through 6 CEOs in 8 years. None with baking industry experience. They've seen Wall Street restructuring experts and liquidation specialists take massive fees while demanding worker concessions. They don't believe the company can be saved. They think accepting another round of cuts just delays the inevitable while enriching investors. The union divide becomes a crisis. Two major unions representing the same company taking opposite positions. The Teamsters accepted reality. The Bakers Union chose defiance. Neither is necessarily wrong. They're just betting on different outcomes. Hostess needs both unions to accept concessions. With only one agreeing, the company's reorganization plan collapses. Rayburn warns repeatedly, "Reject the deal and we liquidate." The Bakers Union doesn't believe him. They think it's a bluff. It isn't. November 9th, 2012, nationwide. Bakery workers from the BCTGM Union walk off the job. Picket lines form at bakeries from coast to coast. Production stops. Delivery trucks sit idle. Hostess Brands, maker of some of America's most iconic snacks, is crippled by a coordinated nationwide strike. The Bakers Union had voted. 92% rejected the company's last best final offer. They knew the potential consequences. They didn't care. Now, from their perspective, Hostess had been mismanaged into oblivion by a parade of incompetent executives. For the past 8 years, management of the company has been in the hands of Wall Street investors, restructuring experts, third-tier managers from other non-baking food companies, and currently a liquidation specialist. Frank Hurt explains. 6 CEOs in 8 years, none with any bread and cake baking industry experience, was the prescription for failure. Rayburn issues an ultimatum. On November 12th, Hostess permanently closes 3 plants due to the work stoppage. He sets a deadline. Return to work by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, November 15th, or the company begins liquidation proceedings. The message is clear, unambiguous, final. The Teamsters Union begs the Bakers Union to reconsider. And they issue public statements urging a secret ballot vote. Let workers decide individually with complete information whether they want to continue the strike. The Teamsters know what's at stake: 18,500 jobs. Not just Bakers Union members. Everyone. Drivers, warehouse workers, office staff, maintenance crews. Entire communities depending on Hostess paychecks. But here's the cruel irony. During the previous bankruptcy in 2004, Hostess made similar threats. File bankruptcy or accept concessions. The unions called their bluff. Hostess filed bankruptcy but kept operating. That created a dangerous precedent. This time, when Rayburn says liquidation, many workers assume he's bluffing again. They're wrong. Thursday, November 15th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The deadline passes. Not enough workers returned. The strike continues. That night, Hostess executives hold emergency board meetings. The decision is unanimous. The company will seek bankruptcy court permission to liquidate. Friday morning, November 16, 2012. Hostess Brands announces it is winding down all operations. Bakery operations cease at all plants. The company will lay off most of its 18,500-member workforce and sell its assets to the highest bidders. The iconic brands will survive. The company will not. We deeply regret the necessity of today's decision, but we do not have the financial resources to weather an extended nationwide strike. Rayburn states, 33 bakeries will close, 565 distribution centers, approximately 5,500 delivery routes, 570 outlet stores. It's over. November 21st, 2012, White Plains, New York. U.S. bankruptcy. Judge Robert Drain approves Hostess's motion to liquidate. The company that survived the Great Depression, World War II, recessions, market crashes, and the rise of health food trends is officially dead. 82 years of continuous operation end not with a bang, but with a bankruptcy court stamp. The closure triggers the largest mass layoff in American bakery history. 18,500 employees received termination notices. Workers who'd spent entire careers at these bakeries, who'd started as teenagers and stayed until retirement age, suddenly face unemployment. No severance packages, no job retraining, no safety net, just pink slips and uncertainty. The local communities feel the easterly impact immediately. In Indianapolis, where Hostess operated a major facility, the closure eliminates hundreds of jobs in a city already struggling with manufacturing losses. In Columbus, Georgia, similar devastation. These aren't just jobs disappearing. They're middle-class wages, healthcare benefits, pensions, stability. Families built around factory schedules suddenly have nothing. The union blame game begins instantly. The Teamsters release a statement criticizing the bakers' union without naming them directly. Unfortunately, the company's operating and financial problems were so severe that it required steep concessions from a variety of stakeholders, but not all stakeholders were willing to be constructive. Translation: the bakers' union killed this company. Frank Hurt fires back. Well, our members decided they were not going to take any more abuse from a company they have given so much to for so many years. They decided that they were not going to agree to another round of outrageous wage and benefit cuts and give up their pension, only to see yet another management team fail, and Wall Street vulture capitalists and restructuring specialists walk away with untold millions of dollars. Both sides have valid points. Both are also partly responsible for the disaster. Management failed spectacularly over 8 years. 6 different CEOs couldn't figure out how to make the business work. But the bakers' union strike, right or wrong, delivered the final blow. Meanwhile, the vultures circle. Flowers Foods offers to buy Wonder Bread and 5 other bread brands for $360 million, including 20 bakeries and 38 depots. Grupo Bimbo bids on beefsteak bread. McKee Foods eyes the snack cake brands. Everyone wants a piece of Hostess. Nobody wants the company itself. But here's what nobody expected. 2 buyers emerge for the crown jewel: the Hostess snack cake brands. Apollo Global Management and C. Dean Metropolis and Company enter a stalking horse bid. $410 million for Twinkies, Ho-Hos, Ding-Dongs, and cupcakes. The death of Hostess is actually a rebirth, just not for the workers. January 30th, 2013, New York City. Apollo Global Management and Metropolis and Company announced they've entered a stalking horse asset purchase agreement. They're acquiring certain assets of Hostess Brands baked snack foods business for $410 million cash. Yes, the deal includes Twinkies, cupcakes, Ho-Hos, Zingers, Suzy Q's, and 5 bakeries throughout the United States. C. Dean Metropolis speaks with the confidence of someone who's done this before. The 66-year-old billionaire has built his fortune rescuing distressed food brands. Pabst Brewing Company, Ghirardelli Chocolates, Pinnacle Foods. He sees what others miss: iconic brands being sold at bankruptcy fire sale prices. We are pleased to be partnered with Apollo as we seek to resurrect Hostess snacks and return these legendary products to the American consumer, he states. Andy Jawar, senior partner at Apollo and head of their consumer and food retail industry group, adds, "Today's approval of the stalking horse agreement is a positive step towards saving some of America's most well-recognized and iconic brands. We believe the Hostess Snacks brands offer significant potential for renewed growth." The bankruptcy auction proceeds on March 12, 2013. No competing bids emerge. Apollo and Metropolis win with their $410 million offer. The bankruptcy court approves the sale on March 19th. Metropolis will serve as CEO of the new company. Plans call for Hostess products to return to store shelves by summer. Meanwhile, the bread brands are carved up separately. Flowers Foods acquires Wonder, Nature's Pride, Butternut, Home Pride, and Merida for $360 million. Grupo Bimbo purchases the beefsteak brand. United States Bakery wins an auction for 4 Northwestern bakeries for roughly $30.85 million, acquiring the Eddie's, Grandma Emile's, Standish Farms, He and Sweetheart Bakery brands. Old Hostess is being dismembered and sold for parts. But here's what's remarkable. The parts are worth more than the whole ever was. Total asset sales exceed $1.8 billion. The company that claimed poverty and couldn't pay its debts is generating massive windfalls for creditors and investors. For workers, there's nothing. The new owners aren't obligated to hire former union employees. Apollo and Metropolis make it clear they're starting fresh. New workforce, new contracts, no union obligations. The 15,000 Bakers Union members who struck to preserve their jobs, they're unemployed. The Teamsters who accepted concessions trying to save the company, also unemployed. The private equity playbook. Buy distressed assets cheap, strip away legacy costs and union contracts. Streamline operations and flip for profit. And it's about to work perfectly. July 15th, 2013. Nationwide. Twinkies return to America's store shelves. 8 months after disappearing, the iconic golden snack cakes are back, packaged with the marketing tagline, "The sweetest comeback in the history of ever." It's not hyperbole, it's accurate. Metropolis moves with surgical precision. The old Hostess operated 11 factories at 50% capacity, inefficient, wasteful, expensive. The new company runs 4 factories at 90% capacity: Columbus, Georgia; Emporia, Kansas; Indianapolis, Indiana; initially Schiller Park, Illinois. That's it. 4 facilities producing the same volume the old company struggled to make at 11. The workforce transformation is equally dramatic. Old Hostess employed 19,000 workers, most unionized. New Hostess has approximately 1,170 employees, non-union. The company shut down 600 thrift stores that hemorrhaged money. Instead, they focus on high-volume retail distribution through major chains. Dollar stores become a key channel, putting Twinkies where impulse purchases happen. Product changes optimize for efficiency and profit. The new Twinkies are slightly smaller than the originals, 38.5 grams versus 42.5 grams. Fewer calories too, 135 versus 150. But here's the improvement that matters most. Shelf life extends from 26 days to 45 days. Longer shelf life means less waste, fewer returns, lower costs, higher margins. The company makes other strategic improvements. They reformulate products using ingredients that preserve freshness without constant refrigeration. They negotiate better terms with suppliers by consolidating orders. They modernize distribution networks using data analytics to optimize routes. Everything old Hostess did wrong, new Hostess does right. Consumer response exceeds expectations. People missed Twinkies more than anyone predicted. The 8-month absence created pent-up demand that explodes when products return. Nostalgic adults who grew up eating Hostess cakes rush to stores. Parents buy them for their kids. The cultural power of these brands, built over 8 decades, proves impossible to kill. Financial results are spectacular. By 2014, the company generates $582 million in revenue with $81.5 million in net income. Those are margins old Hostess never achieved. 2015 brings further growth. 2016 projections show revenue hitting $781 million with net income of $101.8 million. Metropolis describes the business as one of the most profitable consumer companies in the United States. He's not exaggerating. The restructured Hostess, stripped of legacy costs and union obligations, prints money. Apollo and Metropolis purchased the assets for $410 million. Within 3 years, the company is worth more than $2 billion. The resurrection is complete. Almost. We're halfway through this incredible story. If you're enjoying it, you don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support means everything. July 5th, 2016, Kansas City, Kansas. Hostess Brands announces plans to become a publicly traded company again, valued at $2.3 billion. The deal involves a reverse merger with Gores Holdings, a special-purpose acquisition company led by private equity billionaire Alec Gores. Instead of a traditional IPO, Gores Holdings will acquire Hostess and rename itself Hostess Brands Incorporated, changing its ticker symbol from GRSH to TWNK. The financial engineering is complex but brilliant. Gores Holdings raised $375 million in its own IPO. Alec Gores and C. Dean Metropolis invest an additional $350 million through a private placement. Apollo Global Management and the Metropolis family receive approximately $522 million in cash while retaining 42% ownership. Everyone makes money, lots of it. Metropolis's journey with Hostess spans just 3 years. He purchased the assets for $410 million in 2013. Now his stake is worth billions. Forbes will call it a miracle comeback. The transformation of a bankrupt company into a Wall Street darling is remarkable even by private equity standards. The new public company operates with lean efficiency that would have been impossible under old Hostess. William Toller serves as CEO. The company focuses ruthlessly on core products while experimenting with new flavors and formats. Chocolate Twinkies debut. Deep-fried Twinkies appear at state fairs. Hostess bouncers, miniature versions of classic cakes, target the convenient snacking market. Wall Street analysts love the story. A distressed brand rescued by savvy investors, stripped of inefficiencies, and transformed into a profitable growth company. The stock performs well initially. Investors who bought the turnaround narrative make money. Hostess continues acquiring adjacent businesses to expand its portfolio and distribution reach. In 2016, Hostess buys Superior Cake Products, entering the in-store bakery market. In 2018, they acquire the Big Texas and Clover Hill bakery brands from Arista. In 2019, they purchase Canadian cookie maker Voortman Cookies Limited for approximately $320 million. Each acquisition brings new products, new customers, and new growth opportunities. Revenue climbs steadily. $658 million in the 12 months ending June 2016. By 2022, the company reports $1.358 billion in annual sales, with net income of $164 million. The business that couldn't survive as a unionized manufacturing company thrives as a streamlined, acquisition-focused public entity. But here's what's different from old Hostess. This company isn't primarily a manufacturer anymore. It's a brand management company that happens to own some factories. The value isn't in production capacity. It's in the intellectual property. Twinkies, ding-dongs, ho-hos, cupcakes. Icons worth billions because they trigger nostalgia and impulse purchases. The American dream, reinvented for the private equity age. October 2014, Schiller Park, Illinois. The factory where James Dewar invented the Twinkie in 1930 closes permanently. Hostess announces the shutdown will eliminate 400 jobs. The birthplace of America's most iconic snack cake, operating continuously for 84 years, will cease production. The decision makes cold business sense. The Schiller Park facility is old, inefficient, expensive to maintain. Moving production to modernized facilities in Kansas, Georgia, and Indiana saves millions annually. But the symbolism stings. This building represented history, heritage, cultural significance. Closing it feels like erasure. For workers, the closure is devastating. Many had family connections to the plant spanning generations. Grandfathers who helped build the original facility. Fathers who spent careers there. Sons and daughters who expected to do the same. That continuity, that sense of industrial legacy, is dying across America, and Schiller Park is another casualty. The new Hostess doesn't need sentiment. It needs efficiency. The private equity model prioritizes returns over relationships, shareholder value over worker stability, quarterly earnings over community investment. It's not necessarily evil. It's just ruthlessly logical. Keep what makes money. Eliminate what doesn't. The factory demolition happens quickly. Within months, the building where Dewar first filled golden cakes with banana cream is reduced to rubble. The site is cleared. Eventually, it's redeveloped. No historical marker commemorates what happened there. No plaque explains that this empty lot once housed the machinery that produced hundreds of millions of Twinkies. The physical evidence of that history is gone. But here's the thing about the closure. While devastating for workers and symbolically painful, it highlights the fundamental transformation of Hostess. The old company was about factories, about physical production, about the machinery and labor force required to bake at scale. The new company is about brands, about intellectual property, about licensing and distribution networks. You don't need the factory where Twinkies were invented to make Twinkies. You need the trademark, the recipe, the marketing muscle to keep the brand relevant. Physical manufacturing can happen anywhere. The value is in owning the name, the logo, the cultural associations built over decades. This shift represents the broader transformation of American industry. Manufacturing jobs disappearing, service economy expanding, physical production moving overseas or to lower-cost facilities. What remains are the brands, the marketing departments, the management teams extracting value from names that resonate with consumers. Schiller Park closure is more than a factory shutdown. It's a metaphor for the death of industrial America and the rise of financial capitalism, where making things matters less than owning the rights to things other people make. The workers understand this. They're just powerless to stop it. September 11th, 2023. Orrville, Ohio. The JM Smucker Company, maker of jams, jellies, and Jif peanut butter, he announces it will acquire Hostess brands for $5.6 billion in a cash and stock deal. The transaction values Hostess at $34.25 per share, assuming $900 million in debt. For Smucker, it's a major strategic bet on sweet snacking. For Hostess, it's the ultimate validation that the turnaround worked. Think about that number. $5.6 billion. Apollo and Metropolis purchased these assets for $410 million, just 10 years earlier. They're selling for more than 13 times what they paid. The return on investment is staggering even by private equity standards. Metropolis personally pockets hundreds of millions. Apollo Global Management records one of its most successful consumer brand investments. Mark Smucker, CEO of the acquiring company, explains the strategic rationale. Hostess brand significantly advances our strategic transformation toward growing, on-trend categories. The addition of this iconic platform reinforces our focused portfolio of brands consumers love. Translation: Americans can't stop eating Twinkies, even when they know they shouldn't, and Smucker wants a piece of that profitable vice. For Hostess shareholders, the deal represents a massive payday. The stock had traded around $15 just a year earlier. The acquisition premium exceeds 50%. Investors who believed in the turnaround story are being richly rewarded. Those who bought at the initial public offering in 2016 are seeing returns of 300% or more. The acquisition completes on November 7, 2023. His Hostess brands officially becomes part of JM Smucker's portfolio, joining Uncrustables, Folgers, and Milk-Bone. The company that died spectacularly in 2012 has been acquired for more money than Old Interstate Bakeries was ever worth at its peak. But here's what's missing from the celebration. The workers who lost their jobs in 2012, who struck because the team didn't trust management, who watched their pensions evaporate while executives got bonuses, they get nothing. No retroactive justice. No share of these billions being exchanged. They were obstacles to value creation, removed so investors could maximize returns. The Bakers Union members who refused that final contract? They were technically right about management destroying the company, but they were wrong about what would happen next. Now, the company didn't disappear. It transformed. It became more valuable than ever, just without them. The Teamsters who accepted concessions trying to save jobs, they lost their jobs anyway. Their sacrifice bought nothing except a few extra months of employment. For workers, the moral is clear and brutal. In the private equity playbook, labor is a cost to minimize, not a partner to value. 2026. Multiple locations. Walk through the Emporia, Kansas facility today and you'll see modern Hostess production. Efficient, automated, profitable. Fewer than 200 workers produce what thousands once made. The machinery hums smoothly. Quality control is digital. Distribution is optimized. It's everything old Hostess wasn't: lean, responsive, financially sound. But drive to the former Kansas City headquarters at 12 East Armour Boulevard. The building stands empty, repurposed, stripped of the Interstate Bakery's signage that once identified it. No historical marker explains that this was ground zero for one of America's largest wholesale bakery operations. The corporate memory has been erased, replaced by new tenants with no connection to bread or cakes or the 32,000 employees who once depended on this company. The story of Hostess reveals uncomfortable truths about American capitalism in the 21st century. The old model, stable manufacturing jobs, union contracts, pension benefits, companies rooted in communities, is dying, if not already dead. The new model prioritizes efficiency, financial engineering, intellectual property value, and investor returns. Hey, which model is better? That depends on your perspective. For investors, the new Hostess is superior in every way. Higher margins, better returns, streamlined operations, less risk. For workers, it's devastating. Manufacturing jobs that supported families are gone, replaced by lower-paying service positions or nothing at all. For communities, it's a loss of identity, stability, and shared prosperity. The transformation wasn't inevitable. Better management might have saved old Hostess. More flexible unions might have prevented the final strike. Different ownership could have prioritized worker welfare alongside profits, but those outcomes required trust, compromise, and long-term thinking that all parties lacked. Management cycled through 6 CEOs in 8 years, none with baking experience. They demanded worker sacrifice while enriching themselves. They broke pension promises. They destroyed trust systematically. Workers responded rationally. If the company is doomed anyway, why accept more cuts? Unions protected their members but miscalculated. They thought bankruptcy threats were bluffs. They believed the brands were too iconic to let die. They didn't understand that in bankruptcy, brands can be sold separately from the companies that built them. Their leverage was less than they thought. Investors saw opportunity where others saw failure. They understood brand value transcends manufacturing. They knew Americans would pay for nostalgia. They recognized that Twinkies could survive even if the company that invented them couldn't. Everyone acted according to their incentives. The result was corporate death and resurrection. Yet wealth creation for some, devastation for others. American capitalism working exactly as designed. Today, if you walk the aisles of any American grocery store, you'll find Twinkies, ding-dongs, and ho-hos stocked neatly alongside other snack cakes. The golden packaging remains familiar, iconic, unchanged. Children still beg their parents to buy them. Adults still grab them for guilty pleasure snacking. The brands endure, seemingly immortal. But if you look closely, you'll notice something missing. The factories that once dotted America's landscape, employing tens of thousands, are mostly gone. Schiller Park, where it all began. Dozens of regional facilities that supported entire communities. The vast distribution network that once required 18,000 workers, all reduced to a handful of efficient modern plants. The story of Hostess teaches lessons that echo across American industry. Legacy costs will destroy you if you can't adapt. Old Hostess collapsed under the weight of pension obligations, healthcare expenses, and union contracts accumulated through decades of acquisitions. Companies that promise long-term benefits must fund them continuously, or face eventual crisis. The math doesn't care about good intentions. Trust between management and labor is irreplaceable. When Hostess executives received massive raises while demanding worker sacrifice, they destroyed the trust required to navigate crisis. The Bakers' Union struck not because they misunderstood the financial situation, but because they didn't believe management deserved salvation. Once trust dies, rational negotiation becomes impossible. Brand value transcends physical production. In it, the most important lesson, what you make matters less than what people think you make. Hostess didn't fail because Twinkies stopped being delicious. It failed because the company couldn't profitably manufacture them anymore. Private equity recognized that Twinkies have value independent of the factories, trucks, and workers that produce them. Buy the brands cheap in bankruptcy, outsource production efficiently, capture the margin. That's the new American business model. Workers are costs, not assets. In modern capitalism, labor is something to minimize through automation, outsourcing, audit, and contract optimization. The 18,500 employees who lost jobs in 2012 weren't partners whose institutional knowledge mattered. They were line items on financial statements and obstacles to profitability that bankruptcy conveniently eliminated. From 1930 to 2012, 82 years of continuous operation producing billions of snack cakes. Peak employment, 32,000 workers. Peak revenue, $3 billion annually. 2 bankruptcies. Complete liquidation. Assets sold for $1.8 billion in parts. Resurrected by private equity. Sold 10 years later for $5.6 billion. What's left? Buildings demolished, workers dispersed, communities hollowed, but Twinkies survive, more profitable than ever, produced by a fraction of the workforce for a fraction of the cost. The brands are immortal. The company that built them is dead. The workers who made them are forgotten. This is how empires end in modern America, not with violence or revolution, but with bankruptcy court stamps, asset sales, and efficiency consultants. The golden sponge cake endures. Everything else crumbles.